On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, powered by BetUS, we are going to preview the Week 11 matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the Las Vegas Raiders, as the Dolphins looked to string together a few wins. Also, we will talk about Tyreek Hill as he addresses the need for surgery in the offseason. Hey, Chris Grier made the right call at center. We'll talk about it all. Smash that like button, subscribe if you are new, and let's get into this one.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open, touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again! Touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. Hope all of y'all are having a fantastic start to your weekend. All right, I hope you had a fantastic week as well. Hey, all I know is I will be flying into Fort Lauderdale tomorrow evening, and we're going to get this party started, baby. So looking forward to all of this. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new as you come through. Let's do it. We haven't done it in a while. It's been like a week or two. So let's talk about it. Let's do a Friday roll call. Omar Brown in the chat. Robert Thomason, Al Kilpatrick, Ronnie, Russell Swan, James Steele. Who else we got here? JJ Tucker, Costa Nostra, Ruckus. Kurok 1972. We already had that discussion, didn't we? Charles Hilton, Mudbone, Chris G. Oh, Chris Greer's in the chat. Pro Special in the chat as well. Shout out to all of you. Kevin Williams, what's going on? How are you doing, sir? Who else we got going on here? Andrew Harris, Dana. How are you doing, Dana? There is no Dana. There is only Zool. AZ Fanatic, Tori Dixon, Daniel Barry Sports, Lemony Crawdad. Shout out to each and every one of you. Tony Rizzi, Fox. What's going on, Fox? Join us over on Blue Sky. We on Blue Sky. We're on the skyline right now. Phenomenal Pod, Griffin Gaming. What's going on, Griffin? How you doing? Trucker Sean, Mark Brown, Rick Reyes, Sean Davis, K-Jax. That card is on its way. K-Jax, Josh Williams, Kiyoki Smith, Craig Katoa, Mark Heavy. What's going on? Look at this. Whenever people type Chris Greer in the chat, it tags me. You must love life every time you come through the live chat, huh? Shout out to you. I don't know if you guys heard, but it looks like Chris Greer might have made the right choice, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. If you haven't heard yet, here's the deal. Connor Williams has decided to retire per coach Mike Macdonald. I saw the clip. Mike Macdonald said that Connor Williams decided to retire earlier this week. 27 years old. Started every game for Seattle after overcoming a knee injury. Listen, isn't it kind of crazy There's only 2 times I've ever talked about players considering retirement. Will Fuller. I told everyone Will Fuller was considering retirement. No one believed me. He came back for what? A game and a half, and then retired. Right? I got no apologies on Twitter when these people were out here calling me a liar and saying I was making it up. And then in this offseason, I told all y'all that there was a possibility Connor Williams never played again because of how severe his knee injury was, and that retirement was legitimately on the table. If you're a Patreon or a channel member, you already know this. By the way, I got a Patreon update coming tonight, 3 takes. Episode of 3 takes coming from my Patreons tonight. FYI. Talk some Tua and a little bit more in that 3 takes, but I digress. Again, this is 2 players I've warned all of y'all that are considering retirement, and it happened. No, K-Jax, I can't say that, I called Shaq Barrett's retirement because I didn't hear anything about that. But Connor Williams and Will Fuller were 2 players that I warned everyone I was hearing retirement rumblings about. Because it didn't happen immediately in this microwave society, people not really on Connor Williams, more on Will Fuller. People kind of attacked me. Then I ended up being proven right both times, and I ain't hearing a peep from anyone. So, listen. Say what you will, they got Aaron Brewer right. You look at how good Aaron Brewer's been this year. You look at that. You look at how good Aaron Brewer's been this year. Then you now compound the fact that Connor Williams didn't even make it through the season. Chris Greer got it right. And the conversation is going to be had. I've been meaning to talk about this, and we'll talk about it. I think as, we get to the Packers game is the game where I see that being, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Between nailing Calais, between nailing Jordan Brooks, Jonnu, I'm going to tell you this right now. If this team gets back to 500 on Thanksgiving, guys, I don't think they get rid of Greer or McDaniel. Well, I've already said from the rip that I thought McDaniel was safe and Greer was the one on the hot seat. Let me put it this way: if they win, if they get back to 500, and these moves continue to pan out the way they are in favor, I mean, literally, Greer only had 2 bad moves in the offseason. If you think about it, Marcus May and Jordan Poyer, and even Jordan Poyer was good last week. But if these guys get back to 500, that is going to basically, you got to look at it from the perspective of, okay, we all don't agree with the injury excuse. We don't think the injury excuse is good enough. Guys, if they get back to 500, that's going to validate the injury excuse. They're going to turn around and say, well, what if Tua didn't miss 4 games? And like I've already said to Patreon's channel members, and I'll tell you publicly, I had this report weeks ago. I heard the NFL is who stepped in. Right? Like that's what I had heard, that the NFL stepped in, and the NFL is who made the call. That's why while Tua was out, you saw a very testy Mike McDaniel who kind of claimed ignorance and pled ignorance when it came to the concussion issue. That's why Tua Tagovailoa was so pissed when he came back, was because the NFL stepped in. That's why. So I had this update 3 weeks ago on Patreon and channel members, and I'll tell you guys publicly exactly what I said, and I quote from, this is exactly from, I'm going to have a Patreon update tonight about some other stuff, but this is exactly what I wrote and basically what I said on the Patreon video. Difference is community tab, I give you written version. Patreon, I give you the video version. But anyways, this is exactly, I'll read it verbatim. So this is from 3 weeks ago. Quote, I've been told by sources that the NFL did in fact have a say in Tua Tagovailoa being shifted on IR due to his concussion and went over the Miami Dolphins' head. As I reported when the concussion first happened, Tua did not want to go on IR, which I reported before he went on IR, and was eyeing a return against the Titans or Patriots. Right, I reported that a while ago, right when the concussion happened, basically the week after. The NFL stepping in ruffled a lot of feathers in the Dolphins building, and two people who I'm told are particularly pissed off are Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. McDaniel has been using a lot of coach speak and claiming ignorance while seeming frustrated every time the concussion situation was brought up, and I'm told it's because he was absolutely livid with the league going over the team and Tua's head. The coaching staff and management have been leaning on Tua's word about how he's feeling, and the thought process inside the building is he could have returned a few weeks ago if not for the NFL. Yeah, Tua could have been back for the Titans game if it wasn't, or the Patriots game at latest if it wasn't for the NFL. The whole NFL involvement is also why Tua was openly frustrated when he met with the media this week for the first time. This is why Tua made reference to how other physical sports aren't treated like this, and that this is becoming a, quote, thing because of what happened to him specifically 2 years ago, clearly meaning the Bengals game. As I've reported from the beginning, the last concussion was nowhere near, this concussion that just happened, was nowhere near the severity of the one suffered against the Cincinnati, and Tua's known it from the moment this all went down. You want me to take you one step further? This is the kind of info you get on Phinside The NFL. Take you one step further, because Patreons, and I posted this 3 weeks ago, so Patreons and everyone have had this for about a month now. You remember the investigation? You remember the investigation the NFL and the NFLPA did on Josh Allen to see if proper protocols were followed after he was clearly knocked out and concussed in week 5 against the Texans? Put your hand up if you remember the NFL announcing that they conducted an investigation and they found out that all protocols were followed. Put your hand up in the chat if you remember that investigation. All right, because I got more. All right, Lemony Crawdad puts his hand up. He remembers. Well, guess what? You know why that investigation happened? Because the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins quietly filed a complaint to the NFL and the NFLPA. You know why? Because the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa legitimately feel like they're being treated differently than every other team when it comes to the concussion issue. So that whole little investigation the NFL and the NFLPA opened, it was because of the Miami Dolphins. The NFL and the Miami Dolphins are butting heads over the concussion issue right now. That's what's happening. They're saying our player is fine. NFL is saying optics. And that's what's happening behind the scenes right now. So the NFL and the Miami Dolphins are still butting heads even after the Brian Flores stuff. Now it's shifted over to the concussion issue and how Tua Tagovailoa is being treated. And I know for a fact the league is not happy with I mean, it's been, 6 weeks, so maybe it's changed, but I doubt it. I know the league is not happy that they filed the complaint and they had to open the investigation and everything too. So, it's if you look at what's going on behind the scenes, with this whole concussion thing, it's not really pretty. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I say all this to say this today. Omar Kelly, he's clearly heard the same thing because he was on Twitter today and he said, let me find the quote actually for you guys, but he basically said, don't let them fool you. The NFL stepped in. And I had this report a month ago. Here, I'll tell you exactly what he said. So it was from earlier. He said, don't believe. They definitely stepped in. I know I saw it earlier. But anyways, he responded to it and he said the NFL stepped in. He either said it was either today or yesterday. I forget which day, but Omar basically confirmed what I had already reported. So, I mean, you know, kind of not a good situation when you're beefing with the league at all. Did he delete? I wonder if did Omar delete it? No way he deleted it. Oh yeah. So someone said to him, it was 20 hours ago. Someone said to him, who made the decision to put Tua in IR? And if they knew he was going to come back and say how he felt about playing the season, would they have still put him on IR? Omar Keller's response, the NFL, don't let them lie to you. So Omar says this yesterday. I had this report out almost a month ago. I'm telling you, it's an awkward situation. Awkward situation. So you got Omar basically confirming a report I had to Patreons and channel members 3-4 weeks ago. So, I don't know. We'll see, but not good for the Miami Dolphins moving forward with their relationship with the league. That's for sure. So, and I'm going to have an update tonight for Patreons. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, that's where we are out. That's where we're at with all of that. So let's get into things here. Shout out to Chris Greer. Made the right decision on Connor Williams. I'm telling you, made the right decision. Clearly, the guy's body is breaking down. If he's making business decisions like this, you know? So, hold on, let me address this. Check this out. I got you. The NFL has a league to protect, not just one glass-jawed QB. So then what's Chris Olave? Chris Olave went down with his first concussion this year, which was his fourth concussion in 4 straight years, dating back to 2020 in Ohio State. They let him come back after what? They didn't let him get put on IR after his first concussion, and what happened? 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, he gets his second concussion of the year, and now they put him on IR at a higher impact position. And we all remember how good Chris Olave was in his rookie year. If they're so worried about optics and they have a league to protect, why aren't they looking out for other players like that? Chris Olave gets hit harder and more often than Tua does. Had his fourth concussion. 3 in 3 straight years as an NFL player and 1 in 2020 at Ohio State. And they said, no, let him go back out there after a week or two. Yeah, go back out there. And what happens? Second concussion. Now they say put him on IR. Buddy, go watch Olave's first concussion of the year. He got knocked out before he even hit the ground. He fumbled the football because you can visibly see him out cold once he gets hit before he even lands. He's literally standing up and leaning forward, and he's knocked the hell out. It's what happened to Josh Allen if Josh Allen was standing up. Go watch Olave's first concussion of this year. I was literally watching it when it happened. It's just like, go look at Josh Allen. Guys, Josh Allen was fencing when he got knocked out. Why? If you go look at his hands. But the problem is, what did Josh Allen do? He rolled onto his stomach. He didn't lie on his back. So when he rolled onto his stomach, you can't see anything. That's how he hit it. I mean, smart if you're looking to stay in the game. Dumb because you're not actually thinking about your head. You're using it, but you're not thinking about it, which is crazy. But yeah, go watch, go look at Jalen Hurts yesterday. Jalen Hurts should have been taken out of that game. Jalen Hurts should not have been allowed to continue. Do you see the hit Hurts took yesterday? Went to the blue tent, runs in at half, and then he comes back and everything's all fine. Olave might have been fencing from his last concussion too. Trainer was holding his hands down when they carted him off the field. Oh, they treat us differently. You know, they're treating us differently with Tua, and it's because of the fencing. That's why. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy though what's going on with the whole concussion issue. I mean, look at Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller has had 2 concussions this year, and that second concussion, that didn't look all that violent. Listen, I actually think from I have not heard this, but from what I've deduced, it sounded more like Tua got his bell rung, like what we saw against Buffalo in 2022. It was like, okay, against the Bengals, check this one out. You want some inside info if you haven't heard me say this? Here's some for you. Against the Bengals, that concussion he took against the Bengals, Tua was fencing in the ambulance. Like, after they left, Tua was fencing in the ambulance. You want to know something even worse? Tua was apparently, from what I understand, Tua had a fencing issue the next day. Like 24 hours after they hit, Tua was fencing. This time around, I heard when he was walking through the tunnel, he said, I can go back into the game, right? And then they checked him out. They did all their stuff in the room. And he said, okay, I can go back in, right? And they said, no, you can't go back in. And then after the game, this is reported. This isn't even inside info. He was up walking around in the locker room talking to everyone. Now, I always go back to this. If you have a bad concussion or if you are in serious concussion protocol, they will put you in a dark room. The NHL has it. I don't know if the NBA and MLB do, but I know the NHL has it. The NFL has it, where they will put you in a dark room, right? Because if you got bad concussion symptoms and then bad post-concussion symptoms, you basically got to sit in dark rooms. Light hurts you, right? And you can't watch TV, you know? So, like, I heard this wasn't that bad. I heard that that's why he said he was throwing like a week after the concussion. I legitimately heard he wanted to be back for the Patriots and Titans game. And here's the thing where we're at. This is the thing where we're at. Let's be real. And this isn't even a good thing, right? Like, this isn't even a good thing. I'm not using this as like a positive. Tua's had enough of these now where he understands his body and he understands his mind and he understands his head and he understands where he's at. So he could probably deduce really quickly, oh crap, this is a serious one. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. You know, he could probably do better than a doctor could because, listen, you can do scans and stuff, but it's not like a broken arm, right? It's not like a torn ACL where, you know, an MRI or an X-ray is just going to tell you what needs to be done. It's a brain where they still don't understand. All they understand is like the basic stuff, like baselines and all that kind of jazz. And I think what they're also pissed off about is, look at how much long he was. Like, they say after concussion, it takes 30 days for your brain to fully heal from that concussion. That's what the average is. Chris Nowitzki and all the studies say, basically. Well, they held him out like, you know, almost 2 weeks longer than 30 days. That's what also pissed them off. Right? He was out beyond the amount of time that's required medically to, and we've talked about this, right? To basically get your brain back to normal baseline. You know, the maximum amount of time they say is 30 days. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's everything we got on Tua's, you know, issue there. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy how everything has gone with the NFL and this whole concussion issue, because we've seen right in front of our eyes, we've seen them treat other players and other teams differently. Let's be real. And I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly think they were covering up Josh Allen's concussion. You think they're going to allow the Miami Dolphins to file a complaint that leads to an investigation and then admit that proper protocols weren't followed? That's going to show that their system is flawed. They're not going to do that. We've already established that they're all about optics. They're not going to do that. Even if they found something, they won't admit it because of the CTE and the concussion thing is such a big issue for them. They're not going to admit it at all. So I honestly think they know they messed up. I think they know he was concussed, and I just don't think they're going to admit it. That's my personal opinion. Like I said, this episode is sponsored by BetUS.com. BetUS, they got some player props up right now. Tua Tagovailoa minus 117 to be over 240.5 yards passing. Tyreek Hill minus 117 to be over 67.5 yards receiving. And Devon Achane over 62.5 rushing yards, minus 117 as well. Go to betus.com right now. They also have the Dolphins as 9-point favorites against the spread. Go to betus.com right now. Use promo code YouTube150. Get your first 3 deposits matched by 150% up to $2,000. Some of the quickest payouts in the industry right now. 24/7 customer service. Shout out to BetUS for supporting the channel and being a sponsor. All right, so let's get into it. We're speaking of surgery, and we're speaking of injury, and we're speaking of Tyreek Hill and that little prop image. So here is where we're at with Tyreek Hill. Surgery brought up for wrist, but I'm playing. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill said Thursday he may undergo surgery on a right wrist that limited him of practice last week, but any procedure wouldn't be until after the 2024 season ends. Hill said he first injured his wrist in August during a joint practice with the Washington Commanders. The injury worsened over the first 9 weeks of the season to a point where Hill was held out of the Dolphins' final 2 practices of Week 10 and carried a questionable tag into Miami's game against the Rams. League's leading receiver from a season ago said he declined surgery and will play through the pain. At the end of the day, I just got to suck it up and deal with the pain, he said. It's going to get worse the more I play, but I got to gut it out for my team. I'm here. I'm locked in no matter what, no matter how I feel. So even if I've got to cut my wrist off, I'm out there. Surgery was brought up, and it was talked about whenever I talked to a few doctors, but it's my call at the end of the day, and it's my call to stay on the field. Hill didn't commit to surgery after the season, but said he'd be in good space to make that decision when the time comes. He did not practice Wednesday, but upgraded to a limited participant Thursday and expects to play Sunday against the Raiders. Lisa Salters of ESPN reported Monday night that Hill told her that he aggravated the wrist injury during his detainment by police before the Dolphins' Week 1 game when he was taken to the ground. However, when asked to confirm that Thursday, he said the injury happened in joint practice with Commanders on a red zone play. So, listen, we don't need to go much further than that. So, here's the thing you got to think about. Listen, I've told you, I think only the Dolphins can afford to lose one more game. 10-7 is where I think they can go. It looks like they're out of the playoffs. Week 13, week 14, Tyreek may check out and may go get the surgery done. Now, the other discussion I want to have. Okay? The extension technically would have been after his injury. Technically. Is Tyreek's body built to take on the load we're asking him to take on in the NFL? You look at what happened in KC, and he didn't see nearly as many targets as he does now. He obviously didn't have nearly as many catches as he does now. Here's the thing. he's starting to get banged up. Last year, by the end of the season, he was banged up. Now he's got a wrist injury. I mean, this guy didn't miss a single game and was never injured in KC. Last 2 years, all of a sudden, he's starting to get banged up. Like Hal says, age matters. Yeah, he's getting older. And now it seems he's getting banged up a lot more because he's taking on a far bigger workload than he's ever had in his NFL career. And I don't know if his body can keep up with it. Like, we used to sit here last year, the year before, and say, you know what? This guy could play until he's over 35, just until the speed goes. And I'm starting to sit here and say, I don't know if his body will hold up. This sounds like his 30s are going to turn into, dealing and battling with a lot more injuries or ailments. And, I could really see him, especially if, we lose 2 more games, I could see him shutting it down. Because it's not like this year he's putting up the kind of production we're used to. I mean, he's not even on pace to have 1,000 yards. So, I just find it interesting. I find it interesting. And yeah, he's a tough guy for playing through this stuff. But the body, man. I just hope it really isn't starting to break down. I really hope it isn't. Please, God, don't let it be. Don't let it be that the body's starting to break down. Because that's not going to be good. All right. A little good article, especially coming off that masterclass performance. Anthony Weaver excelling heading into the Vegas Raiders game. The Miami Dolphins had just beaten the Los Angeles Rams, and head coach Mike McDaniel was fired up in the visitors' locker room. Quote, let me talk about the defense, okay? McDaniel told the assembled players last Monday, hey, we need a game ball for Weave. We got 4 sacks. We got 2 takeaways. How many touchdowns? McDaniel formed the shape of a 0 with his right hand. Weave is the first-year Dolphins coordinator, Anthony Weaver. And yes, he's earned his share of game balls this season, not just after that 23-15 win. The Dolphins are 3-6 heading into Sunday's game against the 2-7 Raiders at Hard Rock, but a bright spot has been overall play of the defense under Weaver, who came over from Baltimore to replace Vic Fangio. Of note, the Dolphins are 10th in the NFL in total defense, 3rd in third down defense, and 11th in red zone defense. He's a phenomenal coach, a great leader, Calais Campbell said this week. I think his passion for the game and his desire to win is what separates him, which I think everybody that does anything wants that. But he just does it at an elite level. A future head coach? Oh yeah, without a doubt in my mind, Campbell said, very soon. And I think he'll be a great head coach. The Dolphins should enjoy the benefits of Weaver while they have him. In the areas of scheme and leadership, Weaver has fit the bill. He's been a very good hire by McDaniel. Weaver's defense is built off the template of the Ravens, which has been dominant for years. I think it's all about the picture, Miami Dolphin linebacker Anthony Walker said this week. Anytime we can make the picture very simple for us and complicated for the offense, that makes our job a lot easier. Make them have to react a little bit. Obviously, playing defense in football, you're always the reactor, but when the offense has to react to you and what you're doing, it slows them down a bit. We try to change the picture, complicated for them, but simple for us. This year, the Dolphins are 15th in NFL in blitz percentage and 16th in hurry percentage. But recall that Shaq Barrett retired before the season. Bradley Chubb is recovering from a torn ACL and hasn't played yet. And Jalen Phillips is out for the season after tearing his ACL earlier this season. What Weaver has done is spread the blitzes around to all players in all locations. You have no idea where our guys are going to be, which I think is what makes it hard to play offense against us, Weaver said. This is especially true of veteran defensive back Jalen Ramsey. Last season, he was not moved around by Fangio. This year, he's been an invaluable chess piece. It's very player-based, Javon Holland said. Weaver's really thinking about how to put us in the best position possible to go out there and be successful. He does a great job making the play call and putting us at the right position when it counts. Weaver said he's a better play caller the second time around. He was defensive coordinator of the Texans in 2020. Cam Smith says Weaver defense doesn't overly stress any unit. It's tying coverage into the rush, Smith said. Just basically making sure that if it's this, then we can combat it with this. So there you go. As a former standout defensive end at Notre Dame, the Ravens, and Texans, Weaver has a direct understanding of players' perspective. Played 8 years in the league. I think that helps him a little bit, just being relatable and communicating to the guys, Campbell said. I think he's a good balance of showing love and then kind of being hard on guys and just trying to find that balance of encouragement and accountability. Walker said Weaver instills confidence. I feel like this is the first time I've been around truly where a coach believes in me, you know? Just me, personally, Walker said. I think he instills that in the whole defense, though, where he allows us to play free. Fangio, Miami's defensive coordinator in 2023, is a coaching legend, but old school. Some younger players seem to vibe with Weaver. He's the same way, said Smith, the 24-year-old cornerback. I'm going to tell you straight up, but he's going to do it in a joking, laughing manner. I've never seen him mad or upset or anything like that. You can see when he starts to get serious, and everybody takes it serious from that. But other than that, he's a joyful, playful dude. Weaver, 44, is charismatic and transparent in news conferences, which will serve him well when he inevitably lands a head coaching job. This season is so long and it's so grueling that it exposes the frauds, Weaver said this week. The Dolphins would be fortunate enough if they're able to hold on to Weaver for 2025. One thing I will say about his leadership style is he doesn't change with the wins and losses, right? Walker said, like, when we've won, we come back and had to correct things. When we've lost, same thing, mindset on getting better, rather than the result. I appreciate that more than anything. Shout out to Anthony Weaver, man. You know, listen, I know when things were looking bad and rough for McDaniel, my whole thing was, hey, if you're going to move out McDaniel, that's the guy you promote. You make him the interim head coach. And honestly, I really hope we can hold on to him. The carousel at defensive coordinator is not what we need. Not what we need. We need stability. 110%. We need stability. I just don't want a carousel at the position of defensive coordinator. And it's already turning into that. If Anthony Weaver leaves for a head coaching job, and all the power to him, take the promotion, that'll be McDaniel's fourth coordinator. Like, that's rough stuff. And then you got to think about the players. All these young players that are constantly having to adapt to new schemes and what coordinators want or expect from them, etc., etc. Brutal. I like Weaver, man. I told all y'all in the offseason I didn't think there's going to be much of a drop-off defensively. And look at, he's providing a top 10 defense. Weaver's doing good stuff. I'm a fan. Mike McDaniel, he had a media availability today, and he said Friday that cornerback Jalen Ramsey had, quote, something come up with his knee during Thursday's practice, and his status is in question for Sunday's game against the visiting Raiders. Oh, my God. McDaniel said the team will see how Ramsey's knee responds on Friday. Asked if he expects Ramsey to play Sunday, McDaniel said, I don't rule out Warriors like he is. He will do what he is able to do Friday. And this is because, remember, this immediate availability was this morning. And we will be optimistic for the game, knowing if he doesn't play, it's because he can't. Dolphins already are without Fuller, who's out Sunday and potentially beyond after his second concussion of the season. Asked if Fuller needs to sit out an extended period of time as quarterback to Tagovailoa did following a September 12th concussion, McDaniel said medical experts didn't feel the timeline was necessitating automatic 4 weeks out. It's week to week based on advice of medical experts and what Kendall is feeling. See? This guy suffered his second concussion this season, and look at, medical experts didn't feel the timeline was necessitating an automatic 4 weeks. And Tua got an automatic 4 weeks. Are you serious right now? Come on. Give me a break. Oh my God. In a far more high impact position. Okay. Kader Kohu, Cam Smith, Storm Duck, Sierra Neal, and Ethan Bonner are the only fully healthy quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. Duck said he's fully recovered from a recent ankle injury. McDaniel addressed other injury and personnel issues on Friday. The Dolphins have the option of activating 3 players this week. Isaiah Wynn, Patrick Morris, and Blake Ferguson. McDaniel indicated that none of those players likely would be activated this week. If Ferguson isn't activated by 4 p.m. Saturday, then that means Tucker Addington from the practice squad would be elevated for Sunday's game. McDaniel said he's optimistic that Robert Jones will play Sunday and is very optimistic that Julian Hill will play Sunday. Oh, gee, thank God. McDaniel said David Long Jr., who was waived this week, did not ask for his release. Said moving on was entirely a team decision, in large part because veteran linebacker Tyrell Dodson became available on waivers. Miami claimed Dodson, and now he's backing up Anthony Walker. McDaniel said it's 50-50 whether Alec Ingold can play on Sunday because of soft tissue injuries are tricky. He missed the Rams game with a calf injury. I mean, that's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious that medical experts think Kendall Fuller, who had a second concussion this year, didn't necessitate going on IR, while Tua was slapped on IR right away from his first concussion this year. Crazy. That is crazy. So it looks like Isaiah Wynn, Patrick McMorris, and Blake Ferguson, they are going to be back on one of the next 2 games. We could have all 3 of those guys back by the Packers game, it sounds like. That's what it sounds like, right? So, I mean, that's a big time positive for me. That's a big time positive for me. I'm not going to lie to you. I like what I see there. So, man, and look at what he said, though. Remember, then people are going to say, well, what about Chubb? He said Cam Good, who got hurt the week after Chubb last year, Cam Good is closer to returning than Bradley Chubb is right now. Let that sink in. Like, that is not great by any stretch of the imagination, people. I hate to be the one that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that one, but that is not good by any stretch of the imagination for anyone hoping he returns this year. I'm just going to be honest. I wouldn't hold my breath for Bradley Chubb. Hopefully he comes back, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Don't know what else to say. For all of you, like me, who are going to be at the Raiders game, here is your Week 11 weather report when you break it down. It's going to be a beautiful 78 degrees, and it'll get down to 76 by the fourth quarter. 59% humidity, about 48 to 50% cloud cover. 20 mile per hour wind gusts, 10 mile per hour out of the northeast. So there's going to be some wind, but there's going to be a little bit of cloudiness. It's going to be a beautiful day to be at the Dolphins game. I'm going to be there. Tony's Rizzy in the chat says he's going to be there. Dudley Durong's going to be there. Jennifer's going to be there. Chef Jew, I'll check my email. I'll get back to you tonight. Don't you worry, sir. Appreciate you for the heads up. Chef Jew says he emailed me. So let's get together for all of you that are going to be at the game. Come by, say hi. I have no idea where we'll be tailgating yet. I'm still working on that. Apparently, we're the guys that I'm going to be with, apparently, they're going to be having a little bit of a cookout. So, man, I will be honest with you, though. No boozing from Reason this weekend. No boozing from Reason this weekend. And the reason why, and I'll be completely transparent with you, I'm landing tomorrow at 6. I'm flying in with the family to Orlando. I got their transportation taken care of, something to help with the bags and everything. Take them to the resort. And then the Disney resort. And then I'm hitting a connecting flight to Fort Lauderdale. Then I'm landing. Then I'm going to the Airbnb. I'm dropping all my stuff. I'm going straight to the Panthers and Jets game. I believe Jen's going to meet me there. We're going to have another bunch of people there. I've got a new sponsor coming to the channel. Then, they're funding this. So I'll be linking up with them. And then, yeah, and then Sunday got the game, and then I got to take a bullet train. I got to hit the Bright Line back after the game because I got to get back to Orlando because we're going to Magic Kingdom on Monday. So there is no boozing and partying from Reason. I'm just going to eat food, enjoy the people, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the game, and live my life a little bit. All right? So, because it's going to be a hectic travel time. And the last thing I want to do is be dead tired sitting on a Bright Line train smashed off my face heading back to Orlando. So, I'll pass. So, but if you're at the game this week, come through. Let's connect. I'll update on the community tab or wherever on X or wherever where we're at. Okay. So I'll keep you guys posted if you guys want to roll through and say hi. Injuries. This is what we kind of went over. Kendall Fuller is out. Armstead questionable. Ingold questionable. Jones questionable. McMorris questionable. Isaiah Wynn questionable. And look at Ramsey. They took off Ramsey's designation. So Jalen Ramsey is good to go. Even if he was limited today, he is good to go. And look at this. Starting to get a little bit healthy, right? 3 of those questionable names are going to be back. Robert Jones apparently is going to go. I mean, Armstead, I think, is going to go. Now, I guess a little bit more on Armstead and everything here, but yeah, I mean, we're starting to get a little bit more. I mean, we get Bradley Chubb back, and these guys finish off getting healthy. I mean, we might be back. We might be. This team might be trending towards getting as healthy as possible in the second half of the season. So, just saying. We'll see. Hoping Armstead's good to go. I think he'll be good to go. But Armstead wasn't even at practice today, apparently. So, we'll see how it works out. Because you say what you want about the Raiders and how they're not good, but they got beat. They got animals on that front defensive line for them. And they're really not. They're missing Nate Hobbs, Andre James, and Cody Whitehair, so their interior will be a little compromised. Harrison Bryant's also out for them too. But they've been playing without Andre James for the last couple of weeks. I think Jackson Powers Johnson will probably be. You're probably going to see him shift from guard to center this week, right? So, but I think Ingold, Armstead, and Jones all have a legitimate shot at playing. So 3 of the questionable guys. When it comes to Patrick McMorris and Isaiah Wynn, we know they're going to be activated in the next couple weeks. So starting to get healthier. When you look at how these two teams stack up, Dolphins, they are moving on up. They are 20th in total offense. 20th. Now, they are moving on up from when Tua got back, that's for sure. All right, as we've done just to show a comparison every week. If you look at where they were at in terms of week 8 when Tua came back, they were 22nd in total offense. So they're moving on up. The Raiders are 29th. When you look at the passing offense, Miami's 25th. They've moved up from 27th. When you look at rushing offense, they've moved up from 11th to 9th since Tua's come back. Scoring offense, they're slowly but surely eking their way up. 16.3 points per game right now. When Tua came back, they're only averaging 11.7. So they've gone up a full 5 points since Tua came back. You look at the Raiders, they're 25th. They're scoring 18.7 points per game. Their rushing offense is one of the worst in the NFL. 32nd, 76.9 yards per game. You look at sacks allowed. Dolphins have allowed 23. The Raiders have allowed 30. So that's 27th in the NFL. Third down offense, the Raiders are not good. 33.6%. While the Dolphins have been lights out on third down the last couple of weeks. You look at the Dolphins, they're 11th on third down. 40.2% of third downs get converted, which they're already up over 8%. When Tua came back, they were at 32.1%. Now they're up to 40.2. Look at total defense. They're ranked 10th in the NFL. The Raiders, they're ranked 15th. Passing defense, the Dolphins are the 8th best, only allowing 191.3 yards per game. Raiders, they're only allowing 195.1 yards per game. But the Raiders are leaky against the run. They're allowing 129.9 yards per game, while the Dolphins, they're allowing about 114.4 yards per game. Scoring defense, the Dolphins are allowing 22.4 points per game, which is 17th. The Raiders are allowing 27.9 points per game, which is 30th. You look at sacks, both teams aren't really, it's not their strong suit right now. Dolphins have 14 for 30th in the NFL. The Raiders have 17 for 28th in the NFL. You look at third down defense. The Dolphins are only allowing a conversion clip of 32%. That's 1.6% less than what the Raiders are currently converting at, and they're 27th in the NFL. The Raiders, though, their third down defense is 20th. They're allowing a 38.6 conversion rate. Takeaways, the Dolphins have 8, which is 23rd. Raiders only have 5, which is 31st. And then giveaways, the Raiders have the most giveaways in the NFL. 19, they're 32nd. The Dolphins have 11, which is tied for 9th in the NFL right now. So, man, that Raiders defense, it's got talent up front, but it is struggling. It is struggling. So that leads us into our offensive keys to victory for the Miami Dolphins. And here's where I'm at. Key one, you need to continue to find balance and don't be afraid to lean into the run game. Vegas is allowing 129.9 yards per game rushing. That's 22nd in the NFL. They'll be without Wilkins, and you may find more success running through the gaps at Jenkins and Butler, though Spillane can fill the gaps. But they're guys like Crosby and Tyree Wilson off the edge. Well, they can set the edge. While their secondary led by Trevon Moehrig, is decent in run support. So I think you might find a little bit more success running through the gaps. But, I mean, they're not good. They're allowing 130 yards per game rushing. Light them up. Number 2, take what the defense gives you. The Raiders run primarily cover 3 on about 29% of their defensive snaps. Secondly, they run cover 1, the second most at 21%, and then cover 2, the third most at 19%. So, listen, I could see an uptick in cover 2 this week. If not, there may be explosive opportunities. That said, Tua took sacks in week 10 due to holding the ball and not taking the underneath throws as often as he did against, say, the Buffalo Bills and the Arizona Cardinals. He was looking for the bigger play downfield, and it cost him. You got to be more disciplined with it because you threw a bad pick, forcing the ball to waddle as well last week. So don't be afraid. Even though they're a weaker team, still do not be afraid to take what the defense gives you and draw them up into the box so you can get the explosive ops and beat them with it. Number 3, get back to trending in the positive direction with the trench play. I like the discipline we saw with no penalties last week from the offensive line, but the interior play in Lamb was not good at times, especially in the run game. Crosby and Tyree Wilson can cause you issues. Max Crosby is obviously a level above Jared Verse, and Jared Verse was a complete nightmare at times for you last week. So then what is Crosby going to be for you? What's Crosby going to be for you? So continue to find balance and don't be afraid to lean into that run game. Take what the defense gives you and get back to trending in the positive direction with the trench play. Those are my offensive keys for the Miami Dolphins this week. The defensive keys for the Miami Dolphins this week. You should be able to dominate the trenches and turn pressures to sacks. Minshew has taken 23 sacks in 8 games played compared to Aiden O'Connell, who has only 3 sacks in 4 games played. Colton Miller is banged up and has allowed 19 pressures and 6 sacks at left tackle. If he's out somehow because he's banged out, then Andres Pete is a shell of himself as his replacement. Rookie DJ Glaze has allowed 20 pressures and 2 sacks at right tackle. Jackson Powers-Johnson has allowed 1 sack and 13 pressures at guard and center, with 5 of those pressures alone coming against the Rams. Why do I say that? Because now we see what a good defensive front can do to them. Miami is coming off their highest sack output of the year. They had 4 against the Rams, and they had their highest pressure output of the year with 21 pressures against the Rams. So ride that momentum. You should be able to dominate the trenches and turn pressures into sack this week. This is as good of a week as ever for Chop to continue that sack streak and maybe get a couple. Number 2, make them one-dimensional. I mean, they have statistically the worst rushing attack in the NFL with Alexander Madison and Zamir White. Madison averages about 3.3 yards per carry, and White averages about 2.9 yards per carry, and neither has a run this year of over 25 yards. White also had 2 lost fumbles this year so far. Between the offense potentially being explosive for the Dolphins and the lackluster run game for the Raiders, you may be able to force the game into Minshew's hands as early as the first half, which I think plays into your favor. And then number 3, Minshew doesn't take care of the football. He's got 8 interceptions to 6 TDs, including a 3-pick game against the Rams. And he also has 5 fumbles so far, and he's lost 4 of them. So, I mean, there is a chance for big-time pressure numbers, sacks, and turnovers. And especially if you execute that second key and you make them one-dimensional, that plays in your favor for turnovers and pressures because the edges will be able to pin their ears back and attack, and then that'll force mistakes and bad throws from Minshew, rush throws from Minshew, which could lead to picks. And maybe Cam Smith gets his first interception this week. You never know. So, what's my player matchup to watch? It's got to be Gardner Minshew against the Dolphins defense. I mean, it just has to. It just has to. Good luck, sir. You've thrown 8 picks already, and you haven't even started the full season. All right? Like, you haven't even been out here the whole year, and you've already thrown these many picks. You've played 8 games. You've thrown a pick. You're averaging a pick a game. You've been sacked 23 times. You're not avoiding pressure. You're making bad decisions and being bad with the football. Listen, could I put Brock Bowers, lock him up on the keys to the game? Sure, but are we really worried about Brock Bowers? Yeah, he's the best tight end in football, but that's all they have. That's your one safety valve. And guess what? Anthony Walker, Tyrell Dotson, Jordan Brooks, we're better in the coverage areas than we have been the last couple of years. So I think we can lock that down. So Gardner Minshew, that's my matchup to watch because this Dolphins defense, they could make it a long day for Gardner Minshew, give a lot of extra opportunities in terms of extra drives with good field position to the offense. This could be a real long day for that offense in Las Vegas. So we'll see, but that's my matchup to watch because, the defense, they could win this game for us alone with how they play against Gardner. How do I see this game playing out? What do I see in terms of a score here? I think the Dolphins break 30 for the first time this year. I'm taking the Dolphins 33-13. I think the Dolphins absolutely run amok with the Raiders. Now, if Armstead's out, that could pose some problems. I mean, Patrick Paul will be in, but we won't be as strong in the trenches. But I think we hand it to them. So I'm taking, what did I say, 33-13. I'm taking 33-13. I think the Dolphins win this game, and I think they win it decisively. So, guys, I'll be out at the game this weekend. There'll be no content next week because I'll be in Orlando, but I will be back to live react for the Patriots game, and we'll do a post-game show for that Patriots game as well. So I'll be back live next Sunday because I fly back in home next Saturday. So email me, Phinside The NFL@gmail.com, if you want to link up at the game on Sunday. I'll see all of y'all there. And let's go get that W. Fins up all day, every day. We'll see you on the next one. Have a fantastic